Bad Magical wanted it, so here we are. Welcome to game number 5, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so excited that we're actually here, and honestly, to be able to get here after a game like that, Deathstrokes, is phenomenal. Like, this game right here was the Prismal Show.
It seriously was the Prismal Show. From the moment this game started, it was Golden Guardians out wildcarding Wildcard. They start off with the early kills very early on, focusing onto the bot lane to make sure they get Prismal ahead. And Wildcard, they still try and make these plays towards the bottom lane. They just do not execute right. You can see right here, they leave Arrow wide open for the taking. Moonlight Vigil takes him out. Arrow could not get online in this game, went 0-5-4. But someone else you really have to point out, there's two players you really have to point out outside of the Prismal Show, and that's going to be both Niles and Newbie, who did a wonderful job. Niles engaging, Newbie defending.
It honestly looked like a completely different Niles, because we've seen his Gnar in the past 2 games, and honestly, it hasn't been terribly impressive. But this game, when he had one player to carry, it's send everyone to Prismal, and he will kill them for you. So when that sort of element of the team is online, that's when Golden Guardians Academy starts to shine. But looking at the other side, Wildcard Red, this is what made them lose against 100 Thieves Academy. This is the mentality shift that really starts to come into play in these best of 5 series. Once you get a bad start, you have to know how to recover, and quite frankly, it just felt like they were continuously walking into the grinder that was named Prismal.
I mean, we talked about how Wildcard is a very winning team. They get lots of victories, get lots of dub, only lost 2 series so far in their summer history. But that also means they're not used to playing from behind, and that's what we've been kind of seeing. Every time Golden Guardians get a lead and they're able to establish it strongly, it's very, very hard for Wildcard to find a comeback. They have moments where there's glimmers of hope, like we saw in game number 2, but it just wasn't happening here. It was straight pedal to the metal out of Golden Guardians Academy.
Although, if I had to say one thing, and this is more to the cast than the plays that happened, to the Rabadons on Aphelios, totally could work. He has ratios on literally every Q ability and his ultimates. So, players listening to me right now, analysts listening, coaches, hit me up. I can tell you all about the AP Aphelios builds that have been hitting the ARAMs.
Who knew that Mad Magical could be wrong about an actual AP off-meta build? I never thought I would live to see the day, but I'm glad I got to experience it for myself. But going back to the overall game here, gentlemen, like it's like you were mentioning, star-studded performances for the entire Golden Guardians roster. Like phenomenal stuff from what we saw. Everybody playing their role beautifully. I just want to point something out. The timeline I have for this game is that at the beginning, Prismal got 2 kills bot side. He got 1 more kill, and then he gets a quadra, and then I just have the game ending, because then that was it. It didn't matter what kind of wildcard Red did after that point, because Aphelios is just so good. And when you're playing a scaling champion like that, and you're ahead this early, how do you do it? Especially up against the Caitlyn, who we know has the Trops going into that mid game too, and you want to play more bot side just to be able to help support her, but you can't, because Aphelios can just dunk on literally every single thing that you know and love. So Deathstrokes right now, if you're a wildcard, bro, it's like, are you banning Aphelios or are you thinking of ways to get around?
There definitely has to be a shift in the way the draft went. To piggyback on some of those stats you said, 10 minutes in, 3 kills for Prismal, 18 minutes in, 7 kills for Prismal. By the end of this, he had a scoreline of 18-0-5. Only 6 of those kills he wasn't able to grab. But yeah, I do think this comes back to the draft, because Golden Guardians Academy, they were able to outsmart a lot of what Wildcard wanted to do, right? They grabbed the LeBlanc right from the get-go. Wildcard straight up rush into the Syndra Trundle matchup, leaving open that Aphelios and Thresh, and Golden Guardians were so happy to grab that. Newbie looked spectacular on that Thresh.
I was honestly surprised looking at this draft. I thought this was going to be, because the shift to blue side, the gangplank was going to go over to Niles, and this would be, oh, okay, Niles' show. But then we saw something so much different after the beginning of this game, and you said it, Ravish, like, it comes down to the beginning of the game. Giving those 2 kills over to a bot side of Aphelios, it gets out of control, and especially with a bot lane with so much experience in Newbie and Prismal, it felt like that was just too easy for them.
I'm thinking of something.
Yeah.
That kiss, look, guys, I want you to dream with me. I remember yesterday when I pointed this out to you, there was a lot of doubt and a lot of fear in your hearts. But here's the thing, look, I think that's what you were talking about, a little bit of changes in terms of their draft. So here's the way I view it. You can keep the Aphelios here, depending on who's blue and red, but I'm saying that right now, it's time for Arrow to bring out Callista. I think this is how you do it. You go for it just like super engage heavy. You all dive in onto one person, no matter what. At the very least, you end up coming out even. And if anything, you can still play towards maybe the whole bot setter type of style you want to build out for yourself, right? You can go ahead and stack your dragons, get another one of the win conditions, and I think Arrow just gets to have a much more fun time than he did that previous game where he's just hoping to get a little bit of farm and not get dove over and over again. But personally, that's just my opinion. Considering we're at game 5, I personally think that literally anything could happen. But someone, let me hear your thoughts.
Sam, do you want to dumpster on it first or me?
Okay, I'll start. Ravish, no. I think that Callista, although a strong pick for Arrow, is just not going to be the answer to this. I feel like there's still the weaknesses that we found before. It's just so easy to dive onto Arrow if he's going to be alone in the bot side, which Wildcard Red love to do. Deserex, tag team me in for more slamming of Ravish's opinions.
And especially for that match right there, like, you needed to be in a position where you had the extra range, and Caitlyn does provide to that to some extent. It was really coming down to the decision making that we saw from Wildcard Red that got them in that scenario for the bot lane. But if it's a Callista gets a Aphelios Thresh, this is a very hard lane to actually pull off, to actually go against, especially with the pressure that we saw coming out of Golden Guard's Academy and the range that you have, how close you have to get to them when you have Niles running something like Gnar, as well as Yunbi running something like LeBlanc. So I'm not a fan, I'm not sold on the Callista there.
Understandable. I just thought I would put something out there to test the waters.
You did.
It's okay. Yeah, it's the waters seem to be a little bit aggressive today. The waves are surely you're coming in, crashing in quite high, right above my overall head level. So you know what? I will digress and I will leave the analyzing to you all, because this is clearly why I'm on this side and you guys are on that side. That's fine. That's okay. But nonetheless, though, right now, because Deserex, I wanted to raise one more point before we cut to a quick break. Is one thing you were saying before is if you're a team like Wildcard, like your mentality has to be either one or two things. You're thinking, oh my God, what did we do? Or you're thinking, well, that kind of sucked. The game was kind of gone from the beginning. Let's just look forward to the next game, right? So, like, where do you think the mentality is right now for them?
I think the mentality is still good for Wildcard. They are a team that, at least from what I've seen, aren't exactly the most tiltable team. They come back really well when they do take defeats. They've been doing a decent job in this series. Just the big problem is they're not adapting to when it comes to that early game, and Golden Guardians are able to take it. As I said, I keep coming back to this. I keep coming back to the draft. I feel like this is a draft war between these two squads, because the draft is drastically different every time we get it. There's always one pick that gets swapped up, one band that gets swapped away. Suddenly the other team's able to grab it. We saw the shift going on where we decided to trade along with blue side, red side, LeBlanc making that first pick on both sides. So I still weigh this matchup heavily towards the draft, and if I had to be honest, I kind of favor whoever's going to get blue side on this next one.
I think that will actually make a huge difference, especially considering the TF ban that happened after game 1 and has been continuous is probably going to continue to happen. If LeBlanc doesn't get banned away by whoever's on red side, then that's going to be the first pick. And I feel like that pick alone has been so influential in the last 3 games rather.
And it's hard to get around, some of these champions without giving up others. If you look at the draft over these past couple of games, Golden Guardians always with the early game focus, TF, Renekton, and Lee Sin, Wildcard, Ziggs, Gangplank, Rise. You have to ban a lot of these champions. You don't want these hitting the rift, so there's always that trade that's going to come off. We get rid of this, but now we're leaving up this.
Well, I do have news for you all, is that Wildcard is on blue side this game. So considering your hypotheses, we might be seeing some interesting results, based upon where you guys lie, just judging on that. But considering what we've seen so far, I'm willing to forego any thoughts, opinions. I just want to see some continuous and fantastic League of Legends which is what we've seen and experienced so far. This game 5 is really anybody's game, but I'll leave it up to the casters to break that down for us after this short break.
Hello, welcome back. We have one final game remaining. 2-2 are the score lines here in round 4. Only one team will move forward to face off against Immortals Academy. Will it be the most winningest team in Amateur, or will it be the most clutch Academy team? That remains to be seen when we get into Champion Select and the game for this series. But again, for the final time, I'm Mad Magical, joined in by the one and only, the beautiful Joshi. What have you got for me going into this last game?
Well, it is Game 5, and we do know that Wildcard are going to be on the blue side, where they have won multiple games at this point. So that should be really good for them in terms of how their drafts have been going thus far. But we also have to note that at the same time, that last game was not close. That last game was a rough one for a lot of teams' mental. A lot of these these pro players have the opportunity to just kind of reset themselves, just like, that's okay, we'll get him next time. We've already beaten them twice today. We can definitely do it again, and it's going to be a big test for Golden Guardians to see if they can carry the momentum, and for Wildcard to see if they can put a stop to it.
Well, and now that we are swapping sides, back to where we started with Wildcard Red being on the blue side, Golden Guardians Academy on to the red. You know what I want? I want Scorched Earth from GGA. Leave open all the stuff that has been contested prior, but they don't do that. Instead, we're going back to the tried and true.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of thing where I might need to bring in Destructs and Cage to kind of slam dunk the whole no-ban strategy.
No, not no bans. You just say you don't ban the Lee Sin. You ban Trundle for sure, because Winston has been a monster on that champion. You just leave open some of these contested picks. You force the hand of Wildcard. Know that they are probably going to look for that Twisted Fate if it's left open. But Aphelios, I gotta imagine, is a top priority for both teams now.
It has been super strong for both Arrow and Prismal after that last game. Remember, a quadra-kill and a pentakill in the same game. Not something that happens very often. And here, we're also paying attention to the fact that Aphelios and Thresh cannot be picked in the same rotation for Wildcard Red. But there's also an opportunity here for them to pick one or the other. I'm kind of expecting Aphelios to be coming here, but LeBlanc is also one of the prime picks that if they leave it open, is likely going to go going over to Golden Guardians.
So what I was thinking was actually getting this Thresh for Daption. He did not look very good on that Braum in the last game. He looked far better when he was on Thresh and could play more of a defensive role for the team. His picks worked out really well for the team, but I do like this change. Getting back to the tried and true, the thing I want to see from GGA, Aphelios Braum, you lock that in and deny that Aphelios going over to the other side.
I like that a lot, but then you also have the question of, like, who's going to get the LeBlanc? There are so many contested picks between these teams now, right? You have to pick one of them. We saw that Yunbi tried to bring out the Lysandra to not great success earlier in the series, and so it really asked the question of, like, if you give over LeBlanc, what are you going to play into it? For Wildcard Red, it was Syndra, and admittedly, it was doing well. It just didn't matter because the bottom side of the map got run over. So if this LeBlanc goes through, I'm expecting Syndra and Aphelios to get picked up here for Wildcard Red.
As do I. I don't think that it's a matter of question of what you want to get. We have seen a lot of these picks kind of be tested out. They already are pre-planned from everyone. They know the strategies going into the game. Why change things if it ain't broke, don't fix. The old adage goes, there it is, Aphelios right into Arrow's pocket.
There you go. It could be very strong, and Syndra not only denies it from Prismal, but also is a pretty good pick into the LeBlanc. And again, Bradley looked pretty decent on it. It just didn't matter when it just got run over bottom lane.
Does Bradley, in Game 5, backs to the wall, play Aurelia, his Aurelia, into LeBlanc here?
It's possible.
It's his favorite
we know
champion.
that Bradley, and he's good at it too. And it's technically flexible as well. It looks like Wildcard Red are spending a lot of time here, and they're going to be going with the Olaf, kind of shutting out the Xin Zhao as something that Rosethorn likes to play with the Lee Sin taken off the table. A bit of a pivot here, and it says to me that the Syndra likely going to be taken off the table here because you don't want to double down with LeBlanc and Syndra. You can't get that much magic damage on one team at the same time, especially if it's all burst oriented.
You know, Josh, I didn't think I was going to be able to use this today, but cheers go out to them. They're playing the Viking. Might as well have a quick cheers to them. There wasn't that much water in there. I thought I put more. Anyway,
I thought I saw like a milk mustache coming out. I was like, wow.
No. That would be impressive, but that would be difficult to clean it out later. But I've been waiting to bust that out for an Olaf to get locked in, and it's by Winston. No longer having his Trundle available, having to go back to something that we have seen kind of consistently, kind of like how Trundle tends to operate, something that can duel early on, but also a good frontliner for the team, especially when you're trying to get into the backline onto something like Varus.
It's definitely a surprising pick here, right, for me, because it is very strong in the early game, right, but it has become kind of this tier 2 jungler for a lot of teams. It has a lot of strengths where you are very clearly very strong with your ability to run people down, you have the immunity to crowd control, but it can also get blown up really hard by LeBlanc, because whenever you press Ragnarok, yes, you're immune to crowd control, but you give up a lot of your armor and magic resistance, and that just makes you a very easy target for the side of Golden Guardians, because they have a lot of damage.
That is now the final ban for GGA. They're really contemplating what they want to take away, and they opt to go with the Lissandra. Even if we haven't seen the most success, it doesn't mean it's the easy thing for LeBlanc to play into. But the thing that is left open is still that Aurelia for Bradley. And you talked about the flexibility. If GGA want to, they could grab that for themselves, but they haven't locked in the jungle just yet, and you'd be giving up a lot of information to Wildcard if you do so.
I'm very curious to see what they end up doing, right? Typically, you're going to be looking to grab a jungler here going in for Rosethorn. With the Lee Sin off the table, the Sinjo already a bit of an issue, just going up against Olaf directly. I'm kind of curious what Rosethorn wants to do. We saw him pull out the Kindred earlier, but it's not the most exciting thing, and instead,
They've
maybe
been
opting
hovering.
towards... They have been hovering a lot of Lilia.
A lot of Lilia and a lot of Kiana, but the Viego is kind of what I expected. It worked out pretty well for them last time around. Wasn't really bullied around by Winston on Trundle as bad as the Kindred had been, but it wasn't necessarily the win condition. That was Prismal in the bot lane. If they can do that again, replicate the same thing in Game 4 in this Game 5, maybe they could put all of the marbles into this Varus and let him be the true carry for the team. But I'm kind of waiting it out to see what they lock in to face off against Yunbi. Instead, they opt to grab this Renekton for the 3rd time in a row.
Okay, I do really like this Renekton. It has a lot of its counters banned away. The Gnar is taken off the table. The Gangplank's taken off. You aren't excited to play Camille into this. And it feels like Niles is kind of being forced into the Ornn that we saw a little bit towards the beginning of the day and haven't really come back to it whatsoever. But there's also a lot of time being spent by Wildcard Red. Looks like Bradley is really thinking about this Zoe, and it wouldn't be surprised if it gets locked in. They do it. Okay, lots of assassinations going to be happening this game between LeBlanc and Zoe. They kind of handshake the mid lane, and then they just go off and kill the 80 carries over and over.
Pretty much, everything we have talked about with LeBlanc, trying to play around the side lanes, move around, it can all be attributed to Bradley on Zoe as well. Something that can move, that doesn't have to stay in the lane, wants to play to help out the lanes, especially for Arrow on this Aphelios. If you can make a play bot lane, that'll be huge for them, while GGA round out the composition with that Ornn.
I do really like this. So this is one thing that we've been kind of looking at over and over is typically we've been seeing teams kind of struggle to really have the tools necessary to get team fights started. Ornn means that you don't have that problem. You always know how you're going to be getting your team fight started. Whereas on the side of Wildcard Red, they have the pick tools coming in from Aphelios and Thresh and also the Zoe. But beyond that, they really need to find a flank coming in from Brandini or Winston to actually get a fight started if they ever fall behind.
The thing is, this composition for both teams is reminiscent of what we have seen through the entire day. The only difference here, GGA have more reliable engage. Wildcard, again, doubling down on getting ahead early, but not having the most reliable dive.
And so both teams are also on a clock, right? As T goes to infinity, Zoe and LeBlanc, the odds of them killing somebody rockets to 100, so you gotta make sure you have control of Fog of War yet again.
And we are here for our final game of this best of 5. Who moved forward to face off against Immortals Academy? Find out after this short break. We have seen pentakills. We have seen 45-minute slugfests in this best of 5. Wildcard Gaming Red, the most winningest team in amateur, now with their backs to the wall against Golden Guardians Academy, the most clutch team in Academy, but only one can come out on top. Only one can move on to the top 4 as we load up onto the Rift. GGA are the team to group up.
Well, here we go. Golden Guardians, they know that Wildcard on blue side have gone towards the star tri-brush over and over again, but this time it's going to be Golden Guardians trying to be really aggressive. They're the ones with the problem this time, but Niles is so far ahead, it feels like anybody on Wildcard would just scatter if they saw anybody coming through, and instead, they're going to be backing away. They do get the ward down, but we've also seen Winston with some imaginative early game pathing, imaginative early game starts on where he actually wants to go for first buff, so this might tell them where Winston is, but it could also tell them absolutely nothing.
I feel like you have to play with that in mind, though, is that Winston has these creative angles, that he is this guy who's been running circles around Rosethorn in the early game, always controlling him throughout this entire season, this series. Win or loss, Winston is the one with the early game priority, but now that they've got a little bit of vision and a little bit of control, it does make their lives a little bit easier on GGA.
Well, we're also seeing right now, even though their lives might get a little bit easier since they do know exactly where Winston is starting, it's also a position where the bottom lane not going to be having a whole lot of attention paid to it for the early game, right? We are seeing that Winston starting the top half will eventually come down bottom, but Viego not likely going to be spending a lot of time down here. He doesn't really go for a lot of early ganks, and this should give Arrow and Daption a bit more freedom to not only play this lane now as they race for level 2, but also around the 3-minute mark when Winston's here, could be very dangerous for Prismal and Newbie.
You can see that Rosethorn is going for the full clear, just taking everything on his way towards the top side, while Brandini getting an amazing trade against Niles, forcing him all the way back to his turret with that experience lead he's gotten for himself.
And this is kind of why I was unexcited about the Ornn, right? Like, even though I know it's something that Niles has a lot of games on, it's also a situation where it's still not a great matchup into the Renekton. You get pushed around a lot, and even though you kind of go even in CS a lot of the time, you are giving over a ton of priority to Brandini, and we've seen how effective Wildcard Red have been when they could just move Brandini around the map early on.
I'll be honest, I saw the Akshan hover, and I got my hopes up a little bit. I didn't talk about it because I was really hoping if I just ignore it, they'd actually lock it in for the game. So here,
just ignore it.
Yeah, exactly. That's just how it is sometimes, those hovers. They always like to play with my heartstrings. But right now, Brandini is always going to look for these trades, trying to dive in onto Niles and dodging away from any knockup easily with Slice and Dice.
Okay, look at this though. Look at where the junglers are currently standing. Winston isn't going towards the bottom side. Instead, he is here for the top side. He recognizes he has prio. He also has a good idea that Rosethorn is up here. Look at the ward that was put onto Rosethorn's Raptors. They know that there's a potential opportunity here for Rosethorn to look for a gank, and Winston just clears out this first top side Scuttle Crab, and now going towards the top side, Brandini's gonna spot Rosethorn.
He will spot him out pretty easily as Niles and Rosethorn both chase away the Crocodile, but he was in no real danger. He always knew that there is going to be that potential play, but with every single lane having priority at the moment for Wildcard Gaming, it's giving a lot of time over to Winston. He got both of the Scuttle Crabs, and now can get a flash out of Prismal in the bot lane, even if they got the Death Sentence onto Newbie. He dives back in, the shield is up. The Graviton does not do enough damage to actually get first blood.
Great play coming in from Wildcard, getting both flashes down here, but we're also noticing that at the same time, Wildcard are still down a decent amount of farm, but this will also freeze if they were to leave it here on its own, and that's why you're already seeing Rosethorn coming down. Yes, he wants to clear out his bottom side camps, but he can't afford to allow Wildcard to have total control over the lane like this, and so I'm expecting that once Braum gets back, they're probably going to move out in fours and try and get this to crash, and Winston responding to that as well. Everybody coming down here to try and play for this lane state.
Agreed. I think that is exactly what GGA have to do. They have to get this lane state back in their control since they had lost the priority, which meant both Scuttle Crabs were easily taken by Winston. You can even see that Rosethorn, he's maybe even in CS, but beforehand, in the last game, in Game 4, he was the one with the CS lead over Winston on that Trundle.
Well, this is interesting as well. Like, just as we were saying that Wildcard were threatening to freeze on Golden Guardian, they end up pushing it out. They use the flamethrower from Arrow. and it looks like a potential 3 freeze coming through from Golden Guardians instead. And now Wildcard, the one's like, man, we can't just leave this here. We got to make sure we have something. And they're going to look at Nubio as no flash.
Looking for the pretty tanky support. Even if it's early on, he's still going to be able to put up that wall and deny a lot of damage from Arrow, who doesn't have much left in Inferno, so he has to fall back, let the lane state pretty much freeze and crash into GGA's turret, because it can't realistically take that. They don't know exactly the positioning of Rosethorn.
Instead, yeah, they're going to have to be backing away, like you said. Winston is coming down here, so, you know, it's a trade-off, right? By getting this freeze here, it means that you don't have a lot of priority. The fact that Prismal has reset means that there is now an opportunity for Arrow to come through. They bait going back, and honestly, like, the mind game over this wave state between these two teams is pretty impressive, to say the least. And Winston using the priority that the freeze also creates to just go for this early game Dragon. They've done a great job of controlling Dragons in most of the games, and this time, they're going to be getting the first one 2 minutes before the Rift Shroud actually spawns.
And this is actually what I expected from Wildcard. Not the fanging of the back, but utilizing the freeze to get the objective. To get those neutral dragons like they have been throughout this entire series. When we've seen them win, they are the ones with control around all of the neutrals. And now, here in Game 5, with both teams having backs against the walls, you can see that Wildcard are getting these small incremental leads early on.
The discipline coming through. Wildcard, you saw that Winston wanted to contest for this crab because obviously you're the jungler. You want the crab. It tastes delicious. But you also know that your bottom lane really needs to get their back in. They've been trying to sit around in order to make sure that their wave state doesn't suck. And now Arrow going to be coming back with the Vampiric Scepter, a longsword, whereas before they were going to be sitting with basically nothing earlier on. And so as this wave ping-pongs back and forth, I've been very fascinated to watch, you know, all the little things that are going through the heads of these players. How can we get our opponents to do what we want them to?
It's Niles and Brandini yet again butt heads in the top lane, with Brandini having a slight experience lead, and you can even see that translated into the CS that favors him. Niles doesn't want to commit to anything, even if he is fairly tanky, having bought himself the Bramble Vest, you know, Ornn building up all those items in lane. Still doesn't want to trade against Brandini. You have to fear the crocodile.
And it's also very scary, right? You do have a way to stop the stun, but look at that. He just heals up off the wave, and Brandini forcing him away. Niles doesn't know where Winston is right at this moment. It's part of why Brandini is so aggressive, because he knows he can just go for this fight.
Wow, and Niles takes a big brunt of damage off of that. I didn't expect a kill, but I also didn't expect that much damage to come in from Brandini.
Renekton's still good champion. Even with the change to his stun, you know, I think a lot of people might be overreacting, but this is still the change before the stun is nerfed, right? He's still just the champion that everybody was looking at as super strong in professional play, even if not elsewhere. Rosethorn looking to take this away, but he gets spotted out by a pink.
Yeah, but Arrow wants this so badly so they can regain control on the bot lane. Unfortunately, you can't out-smite without your own smite.
Nice. Thanks. Okay, Winston coming up top lane. Niles clears the way, but he's going to get the next wave cleared out. Winston wants to try and keep him here, but it's going to be hard to stomp this back.
It is going to.
Oh, they just runs in.
Deep underneath the turret, undertow to cancel it. Niles has called the Forge God if he needs to utilize that, but both ults are over there for the side of Wildcard. Winston, Brandini.
Nice.
Nice proxy, but a nice cancel on that from the side of Niles to make sure the dive is that much more difficult if it's frozen right outside of the turret.
They also know that Yunbi had just backed away, so he could have been teleporting out of base with item completions and everything that goes along with that. Full HP, full mana. So instead of going for this dive, they're just going to try and pick up the red buff that Rosethorn had just traded for on the bottom side. And these junglers continue to remain abreast of each other. And again, we're not seeing any early game fighting. We're seeing a lot of jockeying for position, but nothing has yet erupted.
But you have to imagine that the reason why is this game is everything for both squads. Losing this is it. They are out of the tournament. They are knocked out of Proving Grounds. Wildcard Red, the most winningest team in Amateur. Falling here would be a travesty of all they have accomplished leading up to this. While on the other side, GGA, a team that has come from nothing. They've come from the bottom, and now they're here. Look at them, 12th seed in the top 6.
We also want to look a little bit more at the Wildcard Red story, right? They are able to win every single Tier 2 Proving Grounds qualifying tournament, right? They got first in all of them. That is something that didn't even happen when Noorg won last time around. Noorg was so clearly not, I want to say head and shoulders above, but they won the whole Proving Grounds. Wildcard Red did even better early on. Adaption now looking for newbie, might not find them. But also in Proving Grounds, Wildcard Red haven't taken down an academy team yet. They've only beaten other amateur teams, which we already knew they were better than.
Exactly, and the time they finally face off against an academy team, 100 Thieves Academy knocked them out of the upper bracket here into the lower bracket. So this is it. This could be an important milestone for Wildcard. Can they overcome the obstacle of academy teams? Only time will tell, as right now, 10.5 minutes, almost 11 minutes into the game. Still no deaths at this point. In all the previous games, we had at least 5 all across the board.
Easily. And now with 30 seconds left on the next Infernal Dragon, going to be Dragon 2 of the game, it will be an opportunity for them to kind of showcase how they're able to get these setups. The sleep goes through!
Sleep does go through. Yunbi has to flash because the distortion had timed out. Could not follow that up anymore, but he's going to look for the poke on to Winston. Seeing the bot lane that they're chasing, both Arrow and Dash all the way back towards their turret. Going to get the depth charge, the Death Sentence onto Newbie, and now grabbing some root. Dodges away with the dash back. Undertow did not connect, so no slow tagging onto Newbie.
Crucially, Yunbi also has the teleport available. Even though he lost a lot of HP and mana, he's going to be able to back and potentially look to teleport for this upcoming dragon. There's no big advantage currently going over to Wildcard, but top lane, Niles doesn't have teleport and Brandini does. So Golden Guardians have this small window where they are going to be undermanned.
But the thing is, in about 5 seconds, that TP will be up for Niles, and that's the thing. It's enough of a window for them to play around, where they can force off Wildcard, because they don't know the exact timer. See, boom, there it is. Would have been a risky fight.
Okay, well, we're also seeing Bradley going back, unsure what item completion he has. It's probably just going to be this blasting one, going to be teleporting towards the mid lane, and Golden Guardians going to be the one pulling the dragon out. We are going to be getting a fight, as everybody is here for this 5v5.
Brandini walked, he packed the entire way, didn't even use his TP. So now they can pop that mid lane pretty easily if they want to, but they gotta be careful. They forced off Yunbi at the moment. We're in the middle of the pit. The spike goes over to Rosethorn, but he is gotten the flash, a way to survive. They've taken down the Viking. He is gone, he is executed. Wildcard have to run back. Not gonna connect on the Moonlight Vigil. The flash in from Bradley, but it's gonna be the clone instead from Yunbi, keeping him alive. Rosethorn 2 dodging these bouncing stars. The paddle stars could not connect, and now TP is being utilized by Brandini to try to help escort Shelly into the turret.
The setup was so much better coming in from Golden Guardians. Brandini got to be careful. A couple turret shots go through, but it's still going to be a bunch of gold going over to Bradley, and now he needs to be careful because Niles is behind him.
And it's not an easy escape. He's got no flash, no dash. They've got now the Orb of Distortion and the knock up on top for Rosethorn to steal away the soul. Brandini, Battlestar to the face. Heartbreak in the hearts of Wildcard. 3 kills now in the pockets of GGA.
Oh my gosh, we saw Bradley trying to find Throw Start so aggressively earlier on. They get the Rift Herald to crash, but at what cost? They lose 2 members in that fight. Yes, they have CS leads in the top half of the map, but giving over all this gold and all this experience all at once, and the dragon, big disaster coming through for Wildcard Red, and we're going to have to take this game a little bit longer, where Zoe and Aphelios will be thriving, but might be struggling to hit up against the range that LeBlanc and Vars are going to be able to hit them from.
As well, having beef balls in Ornn and Braum that can absorb any of that damage that Bradley and Arrow can throw at them. This is looking a little rough for Wildcard, but it's not over just yet. 1,000 gold favors GGA at this moment, but that is not insurmountable by any means.
But we also have to pay attention to how the setup for the fight actually comes through. I hope we can get a replay so we can highlight it more specifically, but one of the big things that you always have to look at, and you know, I'm a big chess player, Alex, right? I think that this is well established at this point. When your opponent has like a weakness, you know, yeah, I dabble. You always have to have an opportunity to force the issue. The difference of one move in chess is huge. The difference of about 10 seconds in League of Legends is even bigger if you are able to exploit it properly. And you see a fight going on mid lane.
Oh, Bradley's just gonna die. There's no escape there. Nice pick from GGA.
Zoe just not panning out just quite yet, but there's still plenty of time for this champion to take off. But we'll get a chance to take a look. This is the fight mid lane, right, where it looks like Bradley just kind of gets caught. Yeah, this is him just getting jumped on with no crowd control, no flash. Not a whole lot he can do, and they make sure that they give time for Viego to come over so that there's a kill and an assist at the same time. Extra 150 gold.
Disrespecting. GGA was hoping to deny some of the chickens from going over to Rosethorn, but Bradley, you gotta respect this LeBlanc. We have seen in every win pretty much, except for the first game, LeBlanc has been the linchpin for most of the successes of these teams outside of Game 4 as well.
So now Wildcard looking to try and make something happen on the top side. They looked for a dive against Niles earlier, but not going to be able to make it happen right now. Now, during all this chaos, we have to notice Winston picked up another Rift Herald for his team, but they haven't yet crashed it. There's no place for them to get either.
No. The thing is, these neutral objectives are favoring Wildcard, and that's keeping the gold at least in a position that they can come back from. But right now, we are now 16 minutes into the game, and there's still not a kill that has been picked up by Wildcard, and there's shut down gold that is on the head of Rosethorn.
They can pick that up, that's great, but we already know that Olaf, very strong early game, still viable mid game. The later this game goes, the harder it becomes to pilot this champion because of how much damage is going to be coming through. Very reliant on actually just having that sustain to keep him alive, and now looking to try and run down Newbie, but he just doesn't have the damage, he doesn't have the tools because of how far behind they are currently sitting. Another dragon doesn't spawn for a little while longer. They do have the Rift Herald to try and open up this map.
That was nice, getting a lot of damage onto Prismal, making it a little bit scarier to try to see if he can defend this tier 2, especially now that the Eye of the Rift Herald has been popped. Full charge into the tier 1. Probably a secondary charge onto this tier 2. GGA haven't called in anybody because they only have TP on Yunbi. With 5 members strong by Wildcard, that is a lot of gold they have now picked up back for themselves.
A lot of map pressure, but it is stifled a little bit by the fact that one, LeBlanc is still bottom lane, trying to do damage to the bottom lane turret. Niles is still top lane, and he gets the top lane turret. So even though they get 2 turrets mid lane, it's really hard to push that far in because the fact that all the side lane turrets are still standing. Golden Guardians should be pretty happy with their position nonetheless, even after giving over all that pressure in the mid lane.
But you know, I kind of want to go back to a point we were talking about way earlier, way at the beginning of this game.
Way earlier?
With Winston and how he plays around controlling the jungle. Well, what's easier to control than a no-turret mid lane? Especially with Rosethorn now having that shutdown gold. If Winston can get that control back for the team, that is a win condition that Wildcards can start playing around.
You say it's a win-stun condition?
I would. I would definitely go with
Sorry,
that
Twitch
fun.
chat. Okay,
okay.
Rosethorn.
Oh, Rosethorn has to get a lot of distance back towards the team. Only the knock up on the 1, but they got the kill on Adaption with the Stolen Soul and the play back. Rosethorn had to flash himself. Nice death sentence onto Brandini, and they've taken him out. Winston, he's running for the hills, but he's chased down by the Heartbreaker. Stun 2, no Ragnarok, no salvation for Wildcard.
Oh, Niles still looking for something on the side, but it looks like that will be it. They pick up another dragon, and Wildcard, they think they find something, but the aggression feels like it's gone. They were so aggressive earlier, now Bradley just barely staying alive. They feel kind of all over the place. They're not looking for the same kind of aggressive plays that we saw and loved them for earlier in the series.
The thing is, the worst thing, too, here, Josh, is it's not like they haven't tried this game.
Oh.
You can see that GGA, they have been playing perfectly with how they need to wrestle control back from Winston. They denied him the early control over Rosethorn, and now they have gotten all the gold possible for this jungler.
Yeah, look at how they actually look for this. The fact that there are so many people right over the wall, they find out a little bit too late, and Adaption is just gone right at the beginning. And even though this fight looks kind of weirdly split, there's still enough tools. There's enough opportunities for Rosethorn to get these resets. And once Viego starts resetting, there's not a lot that a team can do. He suddenly has so many options available to him and just gets so much HP back. That is very difficult for all but the most coordinated teams to turn things around.
Here, it is starting to get towards that point of being insurmountable for Wildcard. They have been at this point before. We gotta mention it because Game 2 was a 45-minute slugfest where they fell behind. 6,000 gold at this point into the game and were able to almost wrestle it back. but I almost feel a little bit more apprehensive with this game, having not gotten a single kill for themselves, and you can see how difficult these fights have been for them so far.
It kind of reminds me right now of people looking at Resolve, right? There was a lot of people talking about, like, how are Resolve finding these wins over teams like Cloud9 Academy? Part of it is, you know, yes, we praise them for their team fighting and their team play, but a big part of the fact that they were winning a lot of these later game fights is the fact that they had an Ornn on their team, right? Ornn has so much say over when fights start. He's also so difficult to kill. He's effectively 21% tankier than any other champion with the same items just because of the way his passive interacts. 10% bonus armor, 10% bonus MR, 10% bonus HP. He's just tankier than every other tank.
Yeah, that is true. And now Wildcard are having to face it down, try to see if they can crack through the resistances of GGA while not having very many of their own. Winston, he's doing at least a decent job at keeping up with Rosethorn on CS and jungle control, but unfortunately, it's not the best, especially when he could just body block something like that out of Rosethorn. He got tickled by the damn Paddle Star, and you can even see Bradley's continuing to play aggressively, but he's put himself in a horrible position to easily be killed off.
Overplaying his hand again. This is the second time Bradley's been too far forward and been punished by Niles coming in on the side. Now we're starting to see the Ornn items come through. Level 13 Niles does have the Frostfire Gauntlet upgraded, and the rest of Wildcard has to give over so much space because this mid turret going down, and it's more effective again because the side lane turrets are also down. There's no other places for the members of Wildcard Red to retreat to. They need to start getting control of their jungle, but it's so hard to do so when you don't have control right now and you're face checking a LeBlanc.
Arrow, gotta be careful. That damage from Yunbi, woof! Nearly taking out Arrow through the Immortal Shield Bow. And again, Wildcard are forced back to the drawing board, forced back to their own fountain.
How are they going to stack the deck at this point, Alex? They have no control over the side of the jungle. They have no control over the passageways leading up towards the Baron. They have a little bit of control on their way over towards the Dragon, but Golden Guardians already have two of them, and they have the engage tools, and they will be first to the punch a lot of the time.
You're going to hate me for this one. But the only way that deck can be stacked for a Wildcard is if they somehow can pull a Wildcard now. I had to do it, but the thing is, it's true. Because right now, we see there is a 7,000 gold lead almost for GGA. 22 minutes into the game, with the soul point potential on the line. They can secure that and have full control over the map against Wildcard, who have still yet to find a kill. So many bounties on the side of GGA, but now Bradley again getting caught out. It doesn't matter if you have a portal jump, you're easily jumped on by GGA, forcing out Ragnarok 2 from Winston on the other side. They are getting corralled, they're getting pinned in, Sleepy Trouble Bubble, it doesn't matter because they've got so much damn damage. Zaption has to flash away, heartbreaking him, and taking out Brandini too. They've got every kill, every pick possible, and GGA, the clutch team, continue to run it through.
I can't believe that they're able to just clean over these fights so quickly. Magical, every single time it looks like Wildcard are trying to set up something, Golden Guardians are just there, and they are stronger right now. They're going to be getting this Ocean Dragon, and also immediately turning their attention towards the Baron at 23 minutes. Bradley can try and stop them, but he's 0-4 at this point. He doesn't have any gold. He's behind in farm. He's not going to be able to blow up anybody. We saw him try and tickle Niles earlier, and if anybody walks over to Wildcard, they got to be careful that they're just going to get turned on.
What damage do they have? Look at the itemization. Look at the builds. The discrepancy. You have an Ornn, goddammit, on the other side, giving out ornaments to everyone, and you still haven't even been able to complete a non-mythic item.
They survived the early game, right? They survived with the Ornn. They knew they didn't necessarily need to do anything. It was on Wildcard to push the game forward, and unfortunately, I mean, this is the third time that we've seen this kind of mistake coming through from Bradley this game, and as I start to try and run, can't even take the blast cone as Olaf because he's unstoppable. They try and fight Niles, but they don't have the damage. He's, again, just tankier than any other tank in this spot. Brandini's not strong enough, and again, Hook's coming through from Rosethorn, doing his best Daption cosplay. It's enough to find them another kill.
They don't have the damage out of Brandini. Bradley still only working on that Blighted Jewel, hasn't completed an item to get the extra magic pen from that Luden's Tempest. Then you can see from Arrow too, he's got no way to cut through Niles at this point.
Nobody does. We'll see what they can do. The Last Whisper is there, but it's not fully upgraded. Niles is going to walk out. And...
Again, why are you focusing Niles? Stop it! Leave him alone! You're not going to kill him!
It's a petting zoo at this point, right? The GOAT is just too strong. And now he's going to
go. The Forge God too, Bradley. Will be able to survive this time around, but the Croc can't. He's made into boots. Bradley has to get back towards his base. They have to forfeit the inhibitor turret and inhibitor mid. While Yunbi escorts minions in the bot lane, they could easily end this game. They don't lose a damn kill. Arrow's taken low. He will survive one final fight, but the TPs are coming in. The snipe in from Prismal is unstoppable. This game should be picked up by GGA just momentarily unless a miracle happens. Where's the wild card? How do you stack the deck now? You can't. Golden Guardians Academy. They are clutch heroes here. They are the extraordinaires of coming back for the lower bracket. They did it in the qualifiers. They'll do it here in the Proving Grounds. They're going on to face off against Immortals Academy.
A deathless game. A deathless game 5, Alex. This is what we were waiting for from Golden Guardians the entire time. Just watching them play through this whole thing. We saw that overall wildcard, they looked so good earlier in the day, but it was not enough. Something happened. Golden Guardians turned on, and that 2 turns into a 3. They're going to be the ones going to the top 4 for the rest of Proving Grounds.
They are our winners. They have won. Moving on to face off against Immortals Academy. What a series out from them. Games 4 and 5, night and day. From the first 3 games in this series, where it seemed like they were struggling. Even their victory in Game 2 looked tenuous at best. But then something happened. They fed something to Prismal over on Golden Guardians Academy side, because he was a monster in Game 4. And even in Game 5, every member of GGA turned on.
That's exactly what you need when you're looking at this level of competition. Golden Guardians had a bit of a lackluster start during the regular Academy season. They came in here as a relatively low seed for the academies, for the Academy teams, but now they're making it into top 4, really showing that they figured something out in the middle.
And that is going to be it from us. We're going to toss a break. When we come back, the Analyst Desk will break down this entire series a little bit more. We'll also have our Verizon post-game interview, so don't go anywhere.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Verizon post-game interview. I'm joined here by my main man, Yimby, bro. After what was a wild 5-game series, Yimby, bro, congrats to y'all. Amazing stuff.
Thank you.
Was, I'm going to be honest, I know me and all my analysts, even the cash on the edge of our seats. Like, bro, just through this 40-game bangers, we're like, what is going to happen? Okay, so right away, too, just for me, answer something like this. In game number 2, right? Like after fight, you guys are like literally playing on a dime, though. Like just that final fight. How did you guys see Arrow was a little bit too far up? What was the call made there? Because I find like that right there was immediately from you guys.
Oh, after game 2?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the games were really rough, right? I'm not sure about the question. Can you say again? Sorry.
Oh, sure, yeah. So I was talking about, just that final fight in game 2, right? Where you guys were like trading back and forth the wild card, right? I just want to talk about just the final call made there too. When you were able to find out Arrow, right? Who was a little bit too far forward, and you guys immediately executed. Because throughout the entire game, like I felt like, both you and Wildcard were playing very, very close. So like, was there a change up there like that you guys immediately decided to execute? Like, how did you identify the opportunity and then decide to close out from there?
Honestly, they gave me 4 games of LeBlanc, so I was really confident
Yeah.
that I'm gonna outperform. Because if you play same champs 4 games in a row, there's something that you're mechanically gonna be better over and over. So I knew the fact that if I get a LeBlanc again, I'll carry for sure. So it came in through my mind when I was playing the game.
I mean, makes sense, yeah. Like, because by the way, your LeBlanc like plays were absolutely fantastic, though. Like,
Yeah.
they talk a lot about Now's GP and then so on and so forth. They don't say enough about your LeBlanc, though. So what I'm hearing is like that should be an instant ban going forward. Am I right?
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe.
I mean, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. So, but going back to bit towards your games, you said the games are rough though. So, talk to me about the adaptations you guys had to make, like going from game to game to game.
Yeah, I mean, we decide that every game, whoever gets a LeBlanc, I feel like gonna win the game most of the times because I feel like without the rise in the game, I think whoever gets that champ, eventually she's gonna be a useful champ later on. And obviously we pulled as a team together, which really makes it more like powerful as a team and as you look. So I was really happy with how we played. So with the overall.
Yeah, I mean, I get why. I mean, and considering you guys won, so there is a huge reason to be happy about it to 110%. Though, one thing I did want to dig into a little bit is within GGA, what is the communication structure like? What are you talking about within the team? Who's calling for those very crucial plays, and like, what is kind of your voice in the team as well?
I mean, our team most of the times now is very vocal about what he wants to do and how we should play as a team, which makes us build as a team more like stronger, I'll say. And Jake obviously he knows how to team fight, so like we just say stuff that like our win con and we just follow. And later I'm like the person that like it's gonna be what they're gonna do. So we just proactive what they're gonna do and defend the plays. And once it's our time, then we like to fight. So like the kind of environment we had during the games. So it was I think we did what we could do
Well,
from the behind.
that's a solid to me because yeah, like it really did work out well though, right? One thing
Yeah.
though is from what we've been seeing so far is
Mhm.
the losers bracket buff for you guys seems to be very real. Like we've seen it a couple of times now. So
Yeah.
talk to you about that. Like, is it whenever you guys drop a series, you're like, okay, cool, let's go undefeated now? Is that it?
Honestly, I lost on purpose because I want to make a story for the Niles because he had a rough day in the LCS. So in academy, I want to make him like Smurfer so that everyone recognize that how good he is. That was all planned. We'll keep
Wow.
continuing grind and we'll win the finals.
I love you, Jack.
Man, that is such a beautiful purpose, man. I love that, bro. That's so nice, man.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
well,
obviously, shout
final
out to my
question.
teammates too. So
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, you get all your team to phenomenal. But like I know you guys are working out for Nas, but final question to you here, UNB.
Mhm.
Talk to you about you. Like, is there anything you find that you want people to say about you more as a player?
I think I like to just help my teams and get them lead, but the more I spend the time in a careers like pro scene, I think knowing what my job and doing what I have to do is very important. So I'm trying to stick with the what I can do as a individually, so that I don't drill my teammates to down. I think this like came into my mind during our proving grounds. So yeah,
Well, honestly, NB man, I think you're doing a fantastic job, and a big congrats to everybody over at GGA, man. A phenomenal decision for you guys, and I cannot wait to see how you guys go on
Thank
to
you.
Proving Grounds. You guys are top 4, so amazing stuff, and congrats yet again.
Thank you. Okay, last shot. I like your voice.
Oh yeah.
Very unique.
Oh,
Anyways.
Thank
Bye.
you, man. I really appreciate that. That's so kind. Really appreciate it, homie. Okay, bye.
Being fully honest.
Hey, thanks, Gage. Man. I really appreciate y'all. But I feel like Yumi's comment is a little bit like more to me, but I thank you still for the shout out, though, nonetheless. But gentlemen, I want to hear more of your voices. So, Cage, I'll start off with you this time, homie. Let's go ahead and break down that game in the series for the final time tonight.
I mean, honestly, it starts out really fascinating because it's Golden Guardians Academy that go on for the initial dive. Like, they go for the initial gank, and then it's up to Wildcard Red who have to respond to that, and they respond well. But from then on, you just get this feeling like Wildcard don't have any responses to Golden Guardians. They just ran over them throughout the entire game.
I don't know if they were expecting this composition to just plow through without much resistance whatsoever, but the way they played it, it was definitely really questionable to me. There was a dragon fight that happened a little bit earlier, as the 12-minute dragon fight, where you see Wildcard go in with just 2 members in the dragon pit, everyone else behind the dragon pit. It's really hard to be able to find backup to help out those members out there like Winston, who are trying to be that front line, who are trying to grab those neutral objectives. It just didn't seem like Wildcard were on the same page. However, Golden Guardians, good God, man, they definitely were.
I mean, honestly, we felt like Game 4 was the Prismal show. This felt like the Golden Guardians Academy show. Every single person was online. They were working together as a team. They found early leads, and they didn't fumble anything. This is like the inverse of Game 1. It was amazing to watch, and I'm so happy to see that my prediction was right.
Yeah, not a single fumble, only losing 2 towers in the mid lane, 1 Drake, but not giving up a single death. And that's something I want to say, how wild that is, that you go against Wildcard and you don't forfeit a single life. They are one of the bloodiest teams. They are one of the best teams when it comes to getting kills, but man, can Golden Guardians slow to the game when they need to, and man, can they adapt and flip that right onto its side, go to aggressive style, and beat Wildcard at their own game.
Deathstrokes, I think you said it right there, man. Like, it's with the beginning of the day too, we were talking about this. The adaptation coming in from Golden Guardians. We know that when things go the distance, they are ready, they're prepared, and they're one of the best at being able to respond to their opponents. And I find that Wildcard just wasn't able to, was not able to be up to the task. Like, they were not able to adapt fast enough, and GGA caught them off guard here. Wildcard, although they had fantastic solo lanes and like what seemed like a really solid draft, man, Golden Guardians came with the game plan in mind and they executed phenomenally though. So I think all across the board deserves a lot of praise for them just sticking it out. Long 5 series, but this gentleman, they want to be able to get like, just, overall wrapping thoughts on everything we saw here today. Destros, I'll stick with you on this one.
I mean, we have so many great players on Golden Guardians, and they definitely need the spotlight that they're getting right now. Niles is one that Yunbi was talking about. We hype up Niles all the time. He's an amateur and collegiate legend, CLOL champion, multiple titles in amateur, Gangplank aficionado, has the most kill participation in the team. He was definitely a stud in being able to facilitate a lot of the fights that Golden Guardians wanted to do. Another one that pops up is going to be Prismal. He was on 100 Thieves Academy for quite some time. He spent 2 years there and didn't really get the movement he wanted. Now we're starting to see a resurgence out of him. We're starting to see this late run coming out of Golden Guardians, and we have reasons to be hyped up for Prismal, for being hyped up for one of Tim Sevenhuson's top 5 prospects. And then, of course, gotta end it with Yunbi. The dude has worked so hard over the years when it's come to amateur. Joshi was saying he has higher stats across the board. He showed why here today with those performances on the LeBlanc. Golden Guardians Academy as a whole looked good, and I'm very proud of them for taking this win.
I mean, honestly, it was a pretty close game, and I don't know how much I can add to that, except the other 2 members of the team who also played phenomenally. Both Rosethorn and Newbie both were there, and they were both contributing a lot, especially in Game 4, where Newbie was just able to get Prismal out to safety every single time, and managed to make Prismal look as good as he did. And I think that's a really special type of player that they have on Golden Guardians Academy.
Every single member there of GGA should be proud of the performance, right? Although at some points it looked rough, but those high highs are what should be kept with them. And on the side of Wildcard, I think they definitely played their heart out. they're the final hope for amateur in this tournament. But although like they couldn't stick it out, nonetheless though, like GG's over to them. They can also go home like with just a smile on their face, knowing that they made GGA work for it, and they have a lot to be able to take away from this. But as of right now, gentlemen, we are into our top 4. This being one of the final weeks of regular play. Going into next week, we have our semis, our losers, and eventually our finals for Proving Grounds. As we see the bracket here one last time, just to be able to show you all what is in store in front of us. As you see, like all these games going on forward, we will be having, of course, Immortals going up against GGA next week, and then of course our semis too will be going on forward. Destrux, what are you thinking about next week's matches?
I'm excited for next week's matches. I'm excited for the way Proving Grounds is shaped up. Even though no academy teams have made it in, no amateur teams have made it into the top 4, it shows the development that has happened, because a lot of these players from these squads have come from that Proving Grounds victory in spring. Immortals being one of them. We keep talking about Anda and Viper over on the top side. Niles, not too long ago, was an amateur player as well, so it's still a lot of hype for the development of NA. I get excited seeing these top teams. Team Liquid is one of my favorite teams personally to watch. I was very excited for them winning their first academy title in the org's history. So we have a lot of competition here. I'm excited for every last bit of it, and even though it's all academy in the finals in these last 4, I couldn't be happier just having the competition that we have, the level of competition that's been brought, the storylines that have been brought here in Proving Grounds.
I mean, all of these last 4 teams are incredibly solid. We've got Team Liquid Academy, we've got 100 Thieves Academy at the top right now, and on the bottom we've got Immortals Academy, and what we just saw, Golden Guardians Academy, the 12th seed coming into this tournament. So amazing that they've been able to make this run, and quite honestly, I don't think they're done yet. I think they've proven themselves today as an incredibly solid team, and I think they're going to go even further beyond as we go through this tournament.
So the games coming forward to your faces are ones that you have to be tuning in for. But I think for everybody here at the That's the Caches and Productions, I do want to thank you. Appreciate y'all being by my side. Big shout out to Joshi and Mad Magical, of course, as always, for giving just a phenomenal cast. As usual, thank you all for watching. We'll be back in a couple of days, same time, same place. But until then, I've been Ravishing Ravish, the most ravishing man on the internet. Y'all have a good night. Peace.